The parshas of Tazria-metzora deal at length with negoim, the tzoras afflictions that appear on houses, on clothing, and on the human flesh. Actually, there's an opinion in Masechtes Sanhedrin that nigei batim, the tzoras afflictions of houses, never were and never will be. V'lomo nichtav, so why were they written? Droish v'kabel skar, in order that we should learn and be rewarded. So obviously, there must be much that we can learn from these parshas. There is an interesting halacha that appears in Meseches Negoim, in the Mishnah, based on a pasuk in this week's parsha. The pasuk says, Uvo asher loy habayis. The homeowner should come, v'higid lakoyen, and he shall say to the kohen lemor, kenega nireli babayis, something that appears as a nega I see in my home. Says the Mishnah, afile Talmud Chacham v'yodeya, even if he's a Talmud Chacham, he's a Torah scholar, and he knows the halachas, and he knows that what he sees is a nega. Nevertheless, he shall not say nega nireli babayis. He shall not say I see a nega. He shall say kinega nireli babayis, something that appears to be as a nega. Why is this? The Re'aim, Rabbi Mizrahi, in his commentary in this week's parsha says, "V'lo yodati lomo." I don't know why this is so. Then he says, "Shomati me'raboisai." I heard from my teachers that this is based on what the Gemara says in Maseches Brachos, "Lamad l'shoincha loymar eini yodeya." Teach your tongue to say that you don't know. A person shall never say things for sure. It's just a midas derech eretz, a proper way of conduct. The Maharal in the Gur Aryeh suggests that the reason is because the nega is only tomei after the kohen pronounces it to be tomei. Therefore, for the homeowner to say that it's a nega would be a lie at this point. It isn't yet a nega. Says the Korban Aharon in his commentary on the Teres Koyanim that this is not true because it is a nega. It's just not tomei yet. So it's not a lie to say that it's a nega. The Tosfos Yontif says that the reason that the Torah doesn't want the homeowner to say nega nireli babayis is because of al tiftach pe lasoton. We should not open up our mouth for the Satan. In other words, one shall not say negative things. One thing is clear, that in the context of nega tzoras, we raise the level of sensitivity as far as speech is concerned. We're very careful about the choice of words. That's not surprising because Chazal tell us in Masechtes Arochin that tzoras is a punishment for loshoin hora, for evil speech. So part of the educational healing process of the Baal Loshen Hora is to develop more of a sensitivity as far as how he says things and what he says. Ke nega nireli babayis. The pshat offered by the Rebbes of Rabbi Mizrahi that the reason that we say kinega is because lamad l'shoincha loymar eini yodeya, teach your tongue to say that you don't know, is interesting because the Gemara actually says that the reason that one should teach his tongue to say that he doesn't know is because shemot is bade, because you might be wrong. So we're not talking about being sensitive about speech, we're actually talking that you might be wrong. How is this part of the educational package that we prepare for the Baal Lashon Hora? What does Lashon Hora have to do with being wrong? The halacha is that one shall not speak negatively about others even when it's absolutely true. So why would we be teaching the Baal Lashon Hora the idea of Lamad L'Shoincho Loimar Eini Yoideya? The end of parshas Kiseitze, the pasuk says, "Hishomer b'nega hatzoras, lishmor ma'oid v'lasois kechol asher yoiru eschem hakoyanim halevim, kasher tzivisim tishmeru la'asois." Be careful with a tzoras. Be cautious. Carry out all the laws of the tzoras. Do exactly as the koyanim will tell you. The next pasuk says, "Zochor es asher osa Hashem Elokecho leMiriam baderech b'tzeischem miMitzrayim." Remember what Hashem did to Miriam as on the way when you were leaving Mitzrayim. What's the connection between these two psukim? So Rashi says, and the sources in the Sifri, Hishomer b'nega tzoras. If you want to be careful not to get a tzoras, so the way is, remember what happened to Miriam, who spoke negatively about Moshe Rabbeinu on the way when you were leaving Mitzrayim, and she actually developed a tzoras. Remembering the Maaseh Miriam will serve as a reminder that you shall not speak Lashon Hora. Hishomer b'nega tzoras. You will not get a tzoras if you remember the Maaseh Miriam. Now, Miriam, she spoke negatively about Moshe Rabbeinu because Moshe Rabbeinu divorced his wife, and she said, "Harak ach b'Moshe diber Hashem, haloi gam bonu diber Hashem." Did Hashem speak only to Moshe? He spoke to us also. Meaning, we're prophets just like me, meaning Miriam and Aaron are prophets just like Moshe Rabbeinu, and just like we weren't told to separate from our spouses, so also he wasn't told to separate from his spouse, and he did it on his own, as Rashi explains, and therefore she was complaining about Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem responds by saying, "Loichein avdi Moshe b'chol beisi nemonhu." As the Mefarshim explain, Hashem is saying that true, you're prophets and he's a prophet, but the level of prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is a different level, and Moshe Rabbeinu's level of prophecy requires that he separate from his spouse, and I actually told him to do so. So Miriam's negative talk about Moshe Rabbeinu is actually based on a misconception, on a misunderstanding, on a mistake. We know that Lashon Hora is prohibited even when it's absolutely true. So how can remembering the Maaseh Miriam serve as a reminder to hold us back from talking Lashon Hora? Miriam made a mistake. I'm not making a mistake. I know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is true. Why shall I not say it when I remember what Hashem did to Miriam? So it must be that whenever we speak negatively about others, there's a mistake. Even if it seems so clear that it's true. However, there's always an element of judgment, which is based on an assumption that he and me are the same. And therefore, I take the liberty of interpreting what his act actually means. I think I know where he's coming from. I think I have the full understanding of what he's doing. But always the truth is that lo yichein avdi Moshe, he is not so, meaning you and him are not the same people. He has a different situation. His psychological makeup is different. His background is different. Everything about him is different. And therefore, You don't have the right to think that you fully understand him or what he's doing. Lo chein avdi Moshe. Every two people are in a sense different. And therefore, talking negatively is prohibited because actually thinking negatively is prohibited. There's a very interesting Lashon in the Sefer Atanya, in the Igeres HaKodesh, Siman Chav Beis, where he writes that if talking Lashon Hara is prohibited, all the more so, he says, Kol shkin v'kal v'chomer, to think negatively about others. In other words, the prohibition against speaking negatively is really a prohibition against being judgmental, against thinking that we understand others. Metzora, a metzora, the Gemara says, metzora stands for moitzera, because who is punished with tzaras? One who finds negative, who finds evil, who finds bad. The Baal Lashon Hara finds bad and he brings out, he's moitzera. He takes the bad out of the context. He doesn't see the full picture. Vayar Elokim es kol asher oso v'hinei toiv moed. Hashem, who has the ability to see kol asher oso, the entire picture, he says that it's toiv moed. We never have the ability to see the entire picture. We see fragmented bits and pieces, and therefore we can never see the toiv moed. We see negative. The Rabbeinu Yoina says that a Baal Lashon Hara is like a zvuv that's meiniach mokoim bogi v'oimeid b'mokom apogum. He's like a fly that has no interest in healthy surface. He's always gravitated. He gravitates to the mokoim apogum, to a bloody surface. And so is the Baal Lashon Hara, who is always gravitating to the negative. You know, the pasuk says, "Mi ho'ishe chofetz chaim oyev yomim lirois toiv." Who is the man who wants to live, who is oyev yomim lirois toiv? Interesting wording. He likes days to see good. Netzor l'shoincha meiro. Hold back from speaking negative, from speaking evil. What does this pasuk mean? You know, the Sefer HaChinuch says many times that ha'odom nifal lefi pu'ulosav, a person is impacted by what he does. One's behavior transforms his personality. Our expressions have impressions upon us. Therefore, when somebody engages in speaking negatively about others, he actually develops a habit of searching for the negative, looking out for the negative. Like the Rabbeinu Yoina says, he becomes like that zvuv, like that fly that doesn't have an interest in the mokoim bori, that always gravitates to the mokoim apogum, to the unhealthy surface. And a person like that becomes miserable because he lives in a world where everything is negative and down and bad, and life becomes a negative experience. David HaMelech says, if you want to become an oyev yomim lirois toiv, if you want to become a lover of days to see good, you want to develop the capacity to see good, the way is netzor l'shoincha meiro. Stop talking evil. Once you'll stop talking evil, you'll stop gravitating to the evil. You'll stop searching for the evil. You won't be a moitzira. And you'll see that things are not as bad as you think they are. They happen to be much better. In the process of the healing of the metzora, he comes to the kohen, because the kohen is the one that blesses Yidden. The kohen is the oyev shalom veroidev shalom oyev esabrius umekarvam l'Torah. Exposure to the kohen has the ability to transform the Baal Lashon Hara into a lover of other people, into one who understands that what you see isn't always what you get, and there's much more good out there than you realize. The Torah says, "Ki savoyu el eretz Canaan v'nosati negat soras bebeis eretz achuzaschem." Rashi says that this is a besorah toiva. It's good news. When the Yidden came to Eretz Yisrael, the Amorim they hid in the walls of their homes avonim toivos umargolios, precious stones and pearls. And when the Jew had a nega on the wall, he had to break the wall, and he found those avonim toivos umargolios. Actually, we know that nigei batim is a punishment, but it's a punishment that also carries a positive educational message. Don't just look at the surface. On the surface of the wall, you see a negatzaras. But if you open that wall and you look inside, you'll find avonim toivos umargolios, and that's the educational message that we give the Balosh and Hora. You're just looking at the surface, you see negative, but you should know that beyond what you see, there are vonim toivos umargolios. There are precious stones. There's so much good that you are not seeing. So the Eibishter helfen that we should merit seeing good everywhere. A guten Shabbos.